I think we're live. Welcome to Question the Drink tonight, guys. If you have been around for a while, you recognize this beauty next to me. This is Dr. Erin. I am so excited to have her back tonight. We are going to be talking about some very important topics this evening. Whether or not you identify with having a drinking issue, maybe you like it a little too much, like I once did, or maybe you're here because you want to know more about removing this toxic thinking that is causing a lot of the problems that we have, which, by the way, lead us to alcohol. Or maybe you're here because you suffer from imposter syndrome, which is another thing that I also dealt with. And sometimes it still creeps in. So without further ado, welcome, Dr. Erin. You are a famous, and I do mean famous, y'all. Yes, no, she is. She's gonna blow this off. She is an international speaker, author, coach, mentor, psychologist. Drop the mic. We got a rock star in the house tonight.
Oh my
Welcome,
gosh,
Erin.
I love you and I love your community. And since we did this last time, people have been loving your community. I'm just so happy they're finding you. So
Oh,
thank you
thanks.
for your work on this planet and your mission. And hi, everybody. I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, so I'm putting this on speaker, so I think it looks better when we're on speaker. So why don't you start off by giving everyone a little bit of background about how well you and I connected, but really about how what we have in common, which is this drinking thing, and how this led to our conversation for those that don't know about you and I and our relationship. And then we're going to get right into the nitty gritty. So how does that
I
sound?
love it. So
Yeah.
we met and fell in love a couple years ago. We were at a coaching kind of mastermind where we were two women just growing their business, just wanting to serve people with our businesses. And we realized we had this thing in common. And I had never really even had a drink other than a Presidente margarita at Chili's. You know those, they were so delicious. Never really had a drink until I was 34 years old when I had severe postpartum depression. And unbeknownst to me, my family brought me a vodka cranberry at noon one day to just kind of lift my spirits. And I took that coping skill back home with me. And within a year, I was a daily drinker and I like to say an alcoholic in terms of my drinking. But, you know, I look back and I think that the common thread is just humanity, and being a human can be kind of hard at times, right? And I think that pain is just the gateway drug. And so whether or not you drink to deal with your pain, or you eat too many Oreos like I've been known to do, or you become a perfectionist, or you insert whatever you do, that's just the way that we try to handle our pain and this hole in our soul. So long story short, that's how we met. That's what we have in common. That's why I'm so passionate about your community here. So wherever you identify on the spectrum of all of those kind of things related to drinking, oh, how human of you. We're all human.
I love that. I love that. And hold on one second. I'm going to keep talking for a second. I gotta do something on the back end to let a couple people in.
Yeah. I love the spectrum at which you talk about, you know, drinking. And I love too the questions of saying, what kind of relationship am I having with alcohol? And what kind of relationship do I want to have with alcohol? And you don't have to put yourself in a box, you know, and I no longer put myself in that box. You know, it's not like, hi, I'm an alcoholic. It's, hi, I'm Dr. Erin. And I have had experience in my life that have been painful. And have many, many strengths. And I'm all sorts of things. So that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, and that is so true, Erin. And you know, because the last time we had this conversation, I really was talking about, for me, I went to the 12-step program. I went to AA for a couple of months, about 4 months. Actually, I went there for a whole year, but consistently for the first 3 to 4 months. And I did not identify with being an alcoholic. And so for me, that's exactly why this group came to be, why GrayTonic is a thing, why Question the Drink is a thing. It's because I didn't identify as being an alcoholic. And I don't think we have to put ourselves on with labels, right? Because I think labels can really deter us from reaching the places that we want to go. Plus, it can help us feel stuck. Now, not to say that for those that truly identify with being an alcoholic or a drug addict or a sex addict or, addicted to gambling, I'm not saying that you shouldn't say that about yourself. I'm not saying that at all. But for me, it was limiting for me. And I truly believe that I'm not an alcoholic, that I was a gray area drinker, which is why I created GrayTonic and this movement, so I can have other people raise their hand and say, hey, yeah, I'm drinking a little too much. I'm not an alcoholic, but I'm definitely drinking more than socially. So what does that look like for me? So I'm glad that you brought that up, because I think that there's a balance. There is this gray area that does exist, and there's a multitude of shades of gray, and there's a multitude of levels in which one can find themselves as. But you know what? We don't care where you feel that you are. That does not matter. What matters is that you are questioning your relationship with alcohol. And more importantly, you're questioning how you're thinking about yourself. So for me, my mission and my goal is to help those that find themselves in this gray area have a better relationship with alcohol and other things. But more importantly, Dr. Aaron, it's about having a better relationship with yourself. That is most important. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to dive right in to what does it mean to break up your relationship with your toxic thinking, because you know what? I have it, you have it, and everyone here listening tonight and watching this, whether it's on the replay, which by the way, if you're watching replay, hit hashtag replay. If you are here, please comment below that you are here. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave a comment. What can we do about our toxic thinking? What does that look like? How does one recognize what is considered toxic, and what do we do about it?
So let's talk about brains of ours and what their job is first and foremost, because I'm going to give you the technology that the most recent research has shown us helps us have a different relationship with our negative thinking. But first we have to understand, I think, that our brain's job is to collect data, to collect all the experiences we had in this life, to make sense of it, to attach a meaning to it, so that we can, it can keep us safe, so that things can be predictable, so that we don't do things that make us fall on our face, make us get rejected, make us fail. It's doing all of these things for us. So I just want to say, brains are here to help us, but sometimes it really gets in the way. And it's not so helpful, right? So, if we think of negative thinking, and I learned that drinking was not a drinking problem, it was a thinking problem.
Amen, sister. Amen to that.
Insert anything, like whatever you're struggling with is probably not that's not the problem. It's a symptom of the thinking problem, right? So if we can have a different, more kind relationship with our brain, that symptom might go away, right? So the brain's job is to alert us that, hey, you might be stepping into an area where you might fail or embarrass yourself. It's going to alert you. So guess what? That's a problem when we're starting new things, when we're growing. Oh, that sounds like being a human, doesn't it? So here's the thing. It's 4 steps. The first step was we need to observe the thought. And here's what I like to do with it. If you can radically observe your thoughts as a bystander, because some of your thoughts actually, they come to you unwelcome and uninvited. Can I get an amen? Right? They're not all in your control, are they? So where is that from? That's just from learning. So if you can say, imagine you're a newscaster, like you have this microphone and you're like, oh, she's having that thought again that she doesn't belong here. Oh, she's having the thought that she'll never lose these 20 pounds. Or, oh, she's having the thought, oh, she's having that thought again. Boy, now she's having the thought that she has that thought a lot. And, oh, now she's having the thought that she'd like to not have that thought anymore. And why does she have that thought anymore? That's kind of what you need to do. You need to literally, I'm having the thought that. So write that down, everyone. That's step 1. I'm having the thought that. Step 2 is I want you to validate your thought, and it goes like this. Oh, it makes perfect sense I'm having that thought because. So write that down. Oh, it makes perfect sense I'm having that thought because. So let's take an example. Having the thought that I can never put 30 days together without drinking alcohol, or I'm having the thought that I cannot possibly socialize without totally feeling embarrassed or weird without alcohol. Oh, it makes perfect sense I'm having the thought that I'll feel really embarrassed if I don't, socialize with alcohol because I don't have much experience with that. or because, oh, it makes perfect sense. I'm worried about that because I don't want to feel embarrassed and uncomfortable. So it's totally validating the thing. Oh, it makes perfect sense. I'm having the thought that I don't know if I'll ever reach my goal of being financially free because I haven't yet. Like there is a reason it makes sense. There is this thing in psychology where whatever you say you can't have gets bigger. It's called cognitive fusion. And so the second you say, I can't have this, and oh, this is bad, and oh, it's getting worse, and why are you here again, and won't you go away? It's fusion. And what we need to do is when we observe it, we have diffusion. That's where we can tell it what to do instead of it telling us what to do.
That is so good, Erin. I want to kind of ride the coattails on that one. So anytime we have a memory, our brain only knows what it knows. And so that's what you're referring to, is that if we already have experience with something, if it didn't work the last time, your brain says, hey, it didn't work last time. Why would you be an idiot and try that again? Because it's not going to work, because we only know what we know. We don't know what's on the other side of what we want. And so we move into this fear, and it's easier for that player in our head, that inner critic, the gremlin, in which I call it, to start wah, 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 the same old thing, the circular thinking loop that happens of the same thing that we're telling ourselves that keeps us stuck. And this is, you guys, toxic thinking. This is what we're talking about tonight. It's bringing the awareness of what it is that you're thinking about. Wow. Okay. We're on point 2.
Yes, the reason why we haven't been able to get rid of the gremlin is because we've been told the wrong thing. So it's not your fault, first and foremost, that the gremlin never goes away, because steps 3 and 4 are new wave psychology, and you probably haven't been taught this before. So we used to tell ourselves, and we used to tell people, oh, challenge the gremlin and tell the gremlin you're not true. And you're like, no, I'm pretty sure the gremlin's true. Because if you're saying to yourself, I'm going to become a millionaire this year, or I will be the millionaire in my family, and you've never cleared 200 grand, your gremlin's going to say exactly what you said, friend. It's going to say, liar, liar, pants on fire. Like, you're not even close to that, right? So here we are trying to argue with our gremlin that's actually just telling the truth. So the third step is to thank your brain. And there is power in this, and you're going to think I'm wackadoo, but once you use this, you're going to say, thank you, brain, for trying to protect me from, and insert your reason, or thank you, brain, for being there for me so that, or thank you, brain, right? So thank you, brain, for trying to protect me from failing once again to reach my goal of being a millionaire. Thank you, brain, for trying to protect me. And so you see, we're not challenging it. Because if we're just observing our thoughts because they just came to us sometimes unwelcome, why do we have to grapple with them so much? Why do they have to be so powerful, right? And then the last step is the power of the pivot, I call it. This is where you make a new decision. And this is where you talk to your thought, to your gremlin, and you say, and now we're going to go do this, or now I know this, or these are the new rules in town. And it might go something like this. You're right, I've never been a millionaire, and I've never known the strategy that I know now. Or you're right, I've never have. Thank you for trying to protect me. And I'm capable of figuring things out. Or I'm capable of being good at getting good at things. Or I'm going to go learn how to increase my skill in that area. I mean, when I first wanted to be a speaker, I didn't have confidence that I was a good speaker. And imposter syndrome comes in. It's like, who do you think you are, thinking you're going to fill a stadium? Like, who? Guess what I did? I hired a speaking coach. So go and skill up in an area to grow your confidence, to move out of imposter syndrome as well. Like, this isn't just a willing yourself on the couch to think you're capable of all good things, like all wonderful things. It's sometimes you got to learn the skill. So I want you to understand that confidence in adulthood is this. It's the ability to figure things out, the ability to confide in oneself, to keep the promises you make to yourself.
Yeah, that's so good. I put us back on gallery view. So my big word is intention. And anybody who's been a client of mine knows that that word intention is so important to me. And I really strive for them to really use it versus goals. I like intention. Intention is more personal. It's more personal based. It's present based. It's bite size. It's smaller. It's actionable steps. And I just heard something the other day that I want to share. It was actually Oprah Winfrey with Deepak Chopra. If anybody's going through the 21-day meditation that they have, Oprah said this about intention. Attention gives awareness direction. Oh my gosh. Intention, listen, guys, intention. So if your intention is to be a better mom or leader or person, or you want to be the non-drinker, or you want to get ahead in life, or you want to be an international speaker, an author, right? Your intention, you have to be committed to self, having that deep commitment to self with this deep, deep intention. And when you have intention, which is now present based, focus, bite size right here, it gives you the awareness, which is what we're talking about. And it gives you a direction. It gives you clarity on where you're going. And sometimes when we ask the question of like, I don't know how, the I don't know how goes, it just shuts down your brain.
The reason why
Nothing.
goals don't work so well with our brains is brain's job is to figure things out, and that it's
Yes.
straight to being addicted to the how. And
Yes.
so replace the how with what I call the wondering technique. I wonder how I can go and accomplish this thing that I just intended.
Yeah.
I wonder what I'd have to learn. I wonder, speaking of imposter syndrome and wondering technique, I used to be such a fangirl of our mentors, and it was cute until it was not cute. And what I mean is it was painful. So if any of you are fanning people, and if you're fans and you know what I mean by that, it's actually really painful because it means that you have to be down here. That's different than admiring or being inspired by someone. If you're fanning somebody, and so the wondering technique gets you out of that imposter syndrome. I wonder what they learned to get to where they are, and I wonder how I could learn that too. Also, I wonder what they've struggled with that I've also struggled with. I wonder what personality traits they have that I also have. I wonder, because perseverance, oh, I have that. Curiosity, oh, I have that. They were a great learner. Oh, I'm a great learner. Interesting. So that will help take you out of that imposter syndrome that way too.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too, when we look at somebody that we admire, right? We're like, instead of going to the jealousy and retrieving inward of, kind of going into your shell, like, well, that happened for them. That can never happen to me. But the thing of it is that it shows us evidence that it can be done because that person has achieved that success. And so if they've done it, if they've quit drinking and it's somebody you're like, gosh, I wish I could learn how to do that. Guess what? You can. You can. And the other thing, I want to go back to the questions about like the wonder technique, which is brilliant, Dr. Aaron, brilliant. The one thing that I like to add is what could I do? It's when you start asking those types of questions, not the how, I don't know how, because it just shuts your brain down. But when you say, what can I do? What are the things that I could take? What actions could I take? What would be the next step that I could do? Ask your brain those types of questions, because then guess what? It goes on a search. It starts going through the Rolodex. Like, who could I reach out to? Who could I call? Who might somebody else know? Oh, then I could reach out to this person. Oh, and that person knows this person. And then before you know it, you're brain dumping all these amazing ideas. So just a little tip.
So good.
Piggyback on the wonder. I love that.
Because your brain is a goal achieving machine. It actually doesn't know how not to go after what it's telling you. So I don't belong here. It's going to go find some data for that. I wonder what I could do next to reach this intention of mine. It's going to go looking. It doesn't know how not to do that.
Yes, yes. I want to take a moment right now and say to everybody who's watching right now, if you have any questions for Aaron or I, please go ahead and put them in the comments. I am monitoring them on the backside here. So this is the time. If you're like, how do I get through this? Or how would I be able to do that? Oh, there's those how-to questions. You know what I'm saying? If you have any questions, now is the time, and go ahead and put them in. I can see them. But let's continue this conversation, Dr. Aaron. It's so amazing. Every time you're here, well, this is your second time. I think there's a third time probably in the mix here for us, but you always bring truth bombs and just really good conversation that applies to everything. We're not just talking about drinking, which we alluded to in the beginning, that the drinking is not the problem. I mean, alcohol is a liquid, you guys. It's a liquid in a glass. It's the meaning that we put on the alcohol and or the chocolate and or the Oreos and or fill in the blank that
It's the
becomes
function.
the
It's the
problem.
function. So in psychology, we learn as a psychologist, what's the function of your behavior? So it worked. The chocolate, the drink, the perfectionism, the fear, it works for a reason, and it doesn't work for other reasons. And it works sometimes until it doesn't work anymore, right? And so you got to look at the function of things. Like when people are saying, I'm making all these bad decisions, Dr. Aaron, why? It's like, let's look, why does it make perfect sense you're doing that? Oh, why does it make perfect sense you're not picking up the phone to grow your business? Oh, yeah, got it. Because you're terrified of rejection. Of course you are. Okay. Like, let's just understand how these brains of ours work and how to have this relationship with them. Okay. And then, imposter syndrome, I believe, is at the heart of it is a worthiness issue. And I have come to set the captives free. And I don't mean I am like Jesus Christ, but I have come to set the captives free from this kind of toxic thinking. And, imposter syndrome can be a lot of things. It can be, I reached massive success, but I just feel lucky about it. That's a way of feeling like an imposter. And that's terrifying when you're like, I have no idea how to replicate this. Another way of feeling like an imposter is the expert that fears not knowing something. Another way is being what I call a soloist. So you grow your business or you do this thing all by yourself, but to scale, you need to have help from others. And then you get help from others and you say, well, it's not my doing, it's because of all these other people, and you can't take credit for it. So imposter syndrome, like you said, friend, can come in any level of success in all forms. And I think, especially in our culture, that we tie our worth on this planet to our production.
Well,
What can I produce?
that is so true, because really what you just said, we tie what we do for a living to how we show up in the world and our worth. And that is so far from the truth, because here's the thing. When I think about and you love him too, I know you do, Ed Mylett. When I look at somebody like Ed Mylett, if you're unfamiliar with Ed Mylett, go look him up. Mylett. I love him. Matter of fact, he just had John Maxwell on 2 days ago it aired 2 days ago on his podcast.
Go follow Ed Mylett and John Maxwell.
Yeah, amazing. And here's the thing. Ed is extremely successful. He's probably one of the richest men in the country. Very successful businessman, very fit, very smart, very put together. And yet his worth isn't his money in the bank. His worth is here and in here. Who he is at the core as a human being is what I strive to be. And like John Maxwell he had on, which is one of his idols or mentors, I should say. Like, if you all know who John Maxwell is, pretty much he's amazing. He's written 85 books, all on leadership. He's a former pastor, amazing human being. And this book is on values and the importance of having values. And I bring this up because we tend to, like Dr. Aaron said, tie our self-worth to how much money we make or how much we have in the bank or what we do for a living or what neighborhood we live in or what kind of car we drive, when none of that matters. What matters is how we feel about ourselves and knowing who we are as a child of the universe on this planet, because I'm no better than anybody else and nobody's better than me. We're all equal. Right? So I think that's so important. And yet when we say I'm not good enough, and trust me, I'm so guilty of this myself. I mean, there's times still I'm like, gosh, I'm just not as far along as I want to be. And I feel like I should be farther along, or I wish I had more of this. I fall into that trap. I do. I'm human. Imagine that. And that's okay. But I quickly catch it and go, just like you said earlier, it's like, yep, there's that thought again. There it is. There it is. I'm noticing that thought is coming back. So it's not about fighting it. It's about noticing. It's about acknowledging. For those of you who know the SABER method, it's about stop and acknowledging what you're thinking about without judgment. You're just asking, is it really true? Could the story just be a story I'm telling myself, or is there something else that could be true? And then breathing to calm your nervous system down, come into a state of control, moving into a parasympathetic state. And then embracing where you are, giving yourself the grace that, yes, you are human. And then redirect. You called it something else, pivot. You called it the pivot, redirect, whatever, refocus. You're going to change it to something that's going to better serve you. And that's the SABER flow, by the way, if, for those of you that don't know. But these are all really practical tools that we're teaching you this evening. And I hope that you find them valuable, because listen, we all suffer. So if you suffer from imposter syndrome or ever felt like you weren't good enough, go ahead and put that in the chat. Or if you have any questions, let me know. And yeah, whew, such good stuff, Dr. Erin. These are all really practical life skills. And you know what? We don't learn this. It's not like, unless you're in school, like you were for psychology, you're not going to learn this on the street. Nobody's teaching this. Parents don't teach this. They should teach it to their children, but it's not talked about enough.
So the reason why John Maxwell is calling his book Values, without knowing him and why he's doing it, but I'm assuming something in psychology, that the idea of your sense of self, which is self-esteem, is understanding your identity. And so the reason why Ed Mylett is not, his self-worth on the planet is not tied to his accomplishments, is he's done the work. And there's actually a technology to it, because I'm sure our listeners are like, yeah, I know, but like, teach me how. And so I would offer you, first you need to figure out who you want to be, who your ideal self is, and write down those words. And then ask yourself every single morning, my intention is to go and be blank, 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 and bookend your day with, was I blank, blank, and blank. Oprah started every meeting at Harpo for 25 years with the same question to her staff. She would sit down, and I can imagine her saying in her Oprah way, what is your intention for this meeting? Every single day. So guess what confidence is? The ability to confide in yourself, to keep the promises you make to yourself. You can't possibly know what promises you're making to yourself if you never ask, who do you value being? So John Maxwell's values clarification exercise is what we all need to do to figure out, oh, that's how I detach my worth from my production. And here's a question I want you to put in your back pocket that I think will really bless you all. How would I approach my work if my worth on the planet was not up for grabs?
So good. So good.
How, if you take your worth on the planet, it's not up for grabs. It's not up for judgment. It's not up for voting. If it was established at birth, what would that look like? Can we break up with proving, pleasing, perfecting, and performing? Proving, pleasing, perfecting, and performing. And can we say, oh, I was born, bliss is my birthright? I'll leave you with one thing, and then I'm sure you want to wrap up, friend, but I want to leave you with this idea. I imagine looking at a baby nursery and being at the window and looking in all the newborn babies. And you would all agree that they're all worthy. They were born with bliss as their birthright. You would never look at one of the babies and say, you know, you can make 200 grand, but not more. You get to go to Bali, but you do not get to go to Bali over there. And you, right? It's ridiculous. So if that's the case, we once were that baby. So it belongs to us as well. So start training your brain. If I were to approach this and my worth was not up for grabs, what would that look like? It's just a technology to kind of practice telling your brain.
Yeah, that's so good. I want to read something real quick, and then we have one question that I see. So for those that are familiar with Marianne Williamson, one of her most famous quotes is, this is so good, coming off the tail of what Dr. Erin said. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small, wait for it, your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Dr. Aaron, that was so brilliantly said. And I hope that blesses someone. Listen, we have one question from Christy. She says, what about not feeling like you're good enough for any situation? How do you retrain your brain to be positive?
So one of the things is you take action.
Oh, you froze, Dr. Aaron. Hold on. She's coming back. She froze. She froze on us, I think. Hold on. Yeah, taking action. I'll keep going until she comes back. You know, we get stuck whenever we move into this this fear. We remain idle, and that is what happens, and it prevents us from moving forward. And for order for us to think in a different way and retrain, first of all, it takes practice. It takes awareness. It takes constant awareness and in practice, and always thinking about what it is that you're thinking about without judgment. Again, we're acknowledging what it is that you're thinking about. But when we move into action, hopefully she'll come back and join us. When we move into action, we then start to have clarity. And that's what happens. We start to see things will start coming our way, and then we can have that more positive energy that flows within us, because we have only two states of being. We're either in this positive state or we're in this negative state. And when we have self-negative talk and we don't know something and we move into that fear and we retract and we become small, like that shrinking that I just read in that quote, it doesn't allow us to be creative and take action. So in order for us to shed that, in order for us to move past any situation, here she comes, is by taking action. I think I did a pretty good job, Dr. Aaron, but you fill in if you remember.
I was typing in the comments. Yes, take action, get competent at something if it's that kind of area. And then tell yourself you're good at getting good at things. You can get good at getting good at things. And one thing about the brain is, again, if its job is to collect data and it's just collected this data over and over and it's run these tapes in your head, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good at anything, I'm not good at anything. Your brain's job is to deal with probability. So your brain's like, I've collected the data and so far I'm not really great at anything. All you need though is to train your brain to think in the land of possibility. So, okay, let's not even argue with the fact that you think you're not good at anything. Let's just not give that all the attention, but let's say, and I'm curious about what I can possibly go and get better at. So that's like that possibility thinking. So, and here's the good news, everyone. I forgot to tell you this, but once you get good at this, you're going to be good at it and it's going to be super easy. So you're actually not going to have to really suffer much with these negative thoughts. They will come around, research shows, less frequently. And when they do, they're less intense and less long. And so you'll bounce back. It's called bounce back ability, resiliency. You're like, bounce back ability will be fast. Like I used to get sad or taken out by my thinking and I would cancel appointments for the next day and I'd cry myself. And now I'm like, I got back in an hour. Okay. And you'll learn and it'll generalize and you'll become this resilient. It'll just be your new way of thinking. So that's the good news. If you put the work in now, it won't be this hard forever.
Yeah, and it's a real thing. It's neuroplasticity. We can really change the way that we think. So we have, and the way I explain it with my group is that, we've been driving the same road to go to the grocery store, for example. We're just familiar with the road. We know where every stoplight is, every stop sign. We know when we make rights and lefts. We know when to put our foot on the brake. But if there was a detour, we'd go, oh, wait, what? Now I have to go a different way. Right? It would cause you to have more awareness about which direction you're going. This is the same concept when we start to work on our thinking, is that we become more aware, and the more aware we become, then that detour doesn't seem so difficult to be taking. And that then becomes our new way. So even with habits, when we're drinking, it becomes this familiar loop. I come home from work, I pour a glass of wine. It's just what I do. You know, the kids are getting on my nerves. It's bath time, it's bedtime. This is when I drink. It's the association, it's the habit, blah, 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 blah. Once we start to shift away from that and we disrupt those patterns and we create new ways of thinking and new patterns and new disruptive tools that we're adding in that shift our attention to something different, now we have a new way and a new direction and a new habit and cleaner and healthier living while we're at it. I mean, this is amazing. This is an amazing process. And I love what you said too, Dr. And that over time, this becomes much easier. This isn't something we have to really struggle with all the time. It does get easier. And you probably know somebody too that everything seems to happen to them, all the doom and gloom. That's because they stay in this cyclone of negativity. And it's really hard to climb out of that. But once you start practicing and this becomes an easier thing to do, and you have more calm and you have more peace over who you are and where you are, and you can look at a situation and throw your hands up in the air and say, can I control it? No. Okay, then I surrender to it and I'm going to be okay. Either that or stay suffering, because that's basically your choice. So that's what we're talking about. This becomes easier over time, but it is work. It is work.
It's the good work.
It's the good work. Yeah.
It's
It's empowering work. It's life-giving work.
It's the work.
And not just for you, my friend, not just for you, for everyone in your life. This is a trickle down effect. I see it all the time with, especially with my one-on-one clients that I get to spend months with. I see that they start to change and shift their behaviors and their patterns and the way that they think. And the next thing I know, their spouse is starting to be impacted. Their kids become impacted. Their work becomes better. This is called the trickle down effect. So this, when we talk about this type of work, this isn't just for you, although it is for you, it affects everyone else in your life. And you will live longer because you will be in a better place.
Yay.
For sure. Yeah. So where can we find you, Dr. Erin? I mean, I'm sure everyone has just fallen in love with you like I did 2 years ago when we first met. Can you believe has it been 2 years?
I don't know. It feels like
yes, it's coming on.
It feels like it's so wonderful.
Yes, it's been 2 years. Yes.
A couple places. Thank you for asking. You can find me on Facebook, Erin Oaksol, OKSOL. You can schedule a call with me, talkwithdrerin.com, or you can find my book, Mind Your Own Business, on Amazon. So lots of ways you can connect with me.
Mind Your Own Business. Oh, so good. Such a good title. Such a good title. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And I will give you a little hint. I'll just go ahead and tell you who's coming next week, so you make sure you come back. We have Jesse Harless, who is the author of not one, but now 2 books. He wrote Smashing Your Comfort Zone, which is, for all my clients that know I talk about cold showers, it is from Jesse Harless and his book. He's also very good friends with Hal Elrod, who wrote the book, The Miracle Morning. And Jesse just wrote another book called If Not You, Who? I think that's what it's called. I might have that wrong. I'll make sure we get the title right, but he'll be here next week. He's an amazing human. And he's been in recovery for a long, long time. So he comes with tons of experience. So be sure to come back next week. Same time, same place, 7:00. And Dr. Erin, love you so much.
Wow.
Thank you for being here with us. I'm going to end the live, but Erin, you stay on with me. Guys, we'll see you next week. So much love to you. Thanks for showing up tonight. Take care.